Greetings, I'm George Hepworth, Grover Park Consulting. What I learned about my program management skills from the DevPulse data. I built DevPulse to measure activities in a development project where I teamed up with an AI agent. I suspected the experience might change how I approached access development as a full-time PM. The data confirmed it, and it showed me exactly where I changed. 30 sessions over 3 weeks, 6 context resets, 72 revision cycles. I collected that data in order to understand Claude's performance. By the end of the project, the data was telling me something about my performance. I tracked everything, every session, every task, every time the AI got it wrong and I had to correct it. The application I was building was simultaneously doing the tracking. The last step in every session was requiring the AI to insert the data from that session directly into the database for me. At the end of the first video, I teased the tool stack for a second video, but reviewing the data with Claude in preparation for that video, we understood we should save it for later. You need to hear what I learned before you see the tools. Otherwise, the tools are just a product demo for a proof of concept product. Shortly after I uploaded the first video, I received an email from a colleague, Tom. Smart, experienced with project management, and a top-tier access developer. His reaction to that video was useful. After watching it, he said he still wasn't clear on what revision cycles and context resets actually meant in practice. He asked whether it was Claude entering the data or me. Those are the right questions. They're the questions I didn't adequately answer in the first video. Revision cycles. Simply put, revision cycles refers to how many times the AI got it wrong before it got it right on a given task. Primarily, and this is the key point, the AI entered a revision cycle without my intervention on occasions when its initial attempt did not succeed. No prompting required from me. It's part of how Claude Code works. Context resets. How many times the AI completely lost the thread of what we were doing and had to start over from nothing. The key point here is that some context resets, the ones that matter, were not the result of a deliberate decision to start over. Unplanned and uncontrolled resets lose valuable information. Both of those have a cost, and working with a second developer who could do either of those things at any time without warning quickly changed how I managed the project. Later in this video, I'll explain more about how my behavior changed as a result of these issues. The important thing for now is that every one of those resets and every one of those revisions is captured right here in the data, not just a vague feeling that something wasn't right. The missing detail. Early in the build, I had a conversation with Claude about the data model. That's an architectural decision. We went back and forth, landed on something, and moved on. However, I can't show you the details of that conversation. It's not in the database, and it's only partially somewhere in the markdown files for the project, and it's certainly not in the wiki that we created to track all of our important decisions. I ran a query against the step table looking for all of those items where we discussed either the database or the schema. The first one records the fact that we did have a session establishing project goals, requirements, and SQL Server schema. The only other reference to the SQL Server database and so on, is the step 2 where we recorded that he built it. The database, the development database he used, 11 tables, after update triggers, some stored procedures, and he seeded all lookup tables. And the third reference to a database or a schema is here, and it's not relevant to the actual design of the database itself. This happened early in the process, before DevPulse was working well enough to log consistently and accurately. The absence of detail here isn't a gap in the data. It is the data. The conversation mattered. The decision we made in it still shapes how the application works, for better or worse. And I have no record of how we got there. I corrected course, making changes to prevent that lack of detail from happening again. How I changed as a PM working with DevPulse. Working with a second developer who has no persistent memory and no commitment to capturing detailed data changed how I managed the project. That change happened midway, and that's not ideal, but it is slowly becoming an established pattern working with AI as an assistant. I can show you 3 specific ways I've changed from the data. 1. I built infrastructure for context handoff. 6 out of 30 sessions had a context reset. The AI lost the thread completely. Once it was a VS Code crash, another time an accidental window close. Sometimes it was a session that ran too long. 1 in 5 sessions experienced resets. The first time it happened, I burned a lot of tokens to rebuild from scratch. The second time, I started having Claude Code take notes. I must be a slow learner because it took 3 more context resets before I had a formal task closure routine, a script that logged what we'd built, what decisions we'd made, and where we were picking up next time. The AI began to run it at the end of every session. It is even tasked with reminding me to do it if it looks like I might be moving on without completing my task. Yes, AI had its assigned tasks, but so do I. Figuring out how to create useful session notes. The PM, who asked Claude to add the session note for 1002, wasn't paying attention. That cost us. Who knows what we did? The PM who had Claude write the session note for 1014 had already learned what it cost not to have good notes. In fact, a good deal of the information recorded in the note for session 1014 was added after the fact, manually, through the access interface. The PM who had Claude write the session note for session 1021 was still taking things too casually. The data was there, but lacking detail that would make it truly useful. It captured the fact that Claude struggled with form design on that occasion, taking 6 revision cycles to get the subform control and right margins correct. Nothing there, though, about why that mattered, what problem we needed to solve. That's all implication. I know, but only because I was there, not because I asked Claude to record it correctly. Sometimes the data tells a good story, although it usually comes with a lesson. Session 1016 had 3 revision cycles and no context reset. The step was an amendment to a task I thought was finished, correcting a highlighting pattern on 6 forms we'd already built, and also creating a new rule. It felt like scope sprawl. Something had gone wrong and we were cleaning it up, but we also stepped aside to write about it. The record says we corrected a real defect on 6 forms and established a design rule that prevents the same mistake going forward. 3 revision cycles is proportionate to the correction work. And capturing the important rule about what happened at the same moment it happened really was the right thing to do. Having the data in front of me allowed me to realize my hunch was wrong. The record showed me the truth. The upshot of all this is that I scheduled a project to fix the failures the data exposed in the prototype. The data showed me things I did want to see. It also showed me things I didn't want to see. Scope creep, across steps, sessions where I mixed build work and test work and counted it as one task. No consistent naming discipline in the records. Missing detail. Tom read the same data independently and arrived at the same critique without any framing from me. The data threw the problem in my face, impossible to ignore. The next version of this application, DevPulse Pro, is now in the roadmap specifically to build those disciplines in structurally from day one. The plan for DevPulse Pro isn't in DevPulse. The project hasn't started yet. I'll put it in my project queue when I officially kick it off. That's not a plan to be a better PM. That's a PM who looked at his own data and what his data said about him and scheduled a remediation. What this means? I'm not going to tell you that AI makes you a better project manager. I don't know if that's true in general. What I can tell you is that having a second developer, even one that forgets, even one that gets things wrong, created accountability I didn't feel before. If you've ever felt pressure to just keep going, not wanting to stop mid-project to address issues, the data eventually makes that impossible to sustain. It's right there in the record. The same data I was collecting to measure the AI's performance also measured mine. Actually, trying to explain all of this to someone else, Tom in this case, helped me understand it more clearly myself. His questions sharpened my understanding of the data. The next video will be the tool stack, what I used and how it fit together. If anything in this session, in this video, made you curious about trying it yourself, that's the one you want to watch next. If you have additional questions about what revision cycles or context resets look like in practice, ask in the comments. I have 30 sessions of data and growing, and I'm happy to show you specific examples. DevPulse is also on GitHub. The link is in the description. If you liked what you saw today, please hit the like button. Add your comments. Does this make sense to you? What is missing in my approach? Subscribe to my channel for the next video. I'll see you next time.